to One on One on Bloomshire, Nigeria. I am Emil Salami. Our guest today is the Benin Zonal Commander of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, Mr. Unduka Unwanwene. Hope I got that right, sir.
It's okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, you are the Benin Zonal Commander, so you're in charge of Edo, Delta, and
Bayelsa State.
Yes, so how do you manage all of that? How easy is your job managing these three states?
Well, no job is easy. Of course, we are lucky to have a state commander in Bayelsa, except in Delta where we don't have a state commander yet. But we coordinate things that it falls under this zone, overseeing what is also happening there. So basically, the challenges are there, but we're moving on.
So when we look at these three states, what would you say is their peculiarity? And from these three states, which would you say has the highest number of traffickers or victims, and why is that so?
Well, Edo State has the highest number, and that informed the decision of the agency to establish the Benin Zonal Command as the first zonal command to be established. Since 2004, it's been in existence as the first zonal command to be established, and that was because of the endemic nature of human trafficking in this zone. Edo and Delta State, seems to have the highest number of exploitative, prostitution, which is also an aspect of human trafficking. But we have quite a number of trafficking that also take place in the coastal regions of Bayelsa State. Trafficking take place within the waters and all that. So basically, it's quite apparent, just like in any other state, because human trafficking is an issue that takes place all over the country. No state is immune to it, but of course it's still quite high, within this command.
Like you mentioned, you said your agency, aside trafficking, covers other areas. You have child abuse, you have the sale and purchase of humans, and all of that. So you have a wide range of issues that you cover.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to share with us a particular story. Definitely, you would have a lot of stories, that's so touching, that stands out, because sometimes people feel they make up these stories. How are you sure something like this happened? But you are in it. You cover a wide range of issues. Can you share a particular story with us so people can know and learn?
Well, first and foremost, I want to establish the fact, because the impression has always been that human trafficking is, basically sexual exploitation. It goes beyond that. We have different aspects of human trafficking, and there are particular trafficking issues that are prevalent in a particular area. I was a zonal commander in Uyo, covering Akwa Ibom, Cross Rivers. The shade of trafficking that is common there is baby sales, baby factories and all that. But here we talk about exploitative prostitution, because in human trafficking we're not fighting prostitution. What we are contending with is the exploitation in prostitution as an aspect of human trafficking. There are other issues like begging, getting some children and then putting them forward to beg, and somebody else is receiving all the money that's given to them. It's an aspect. Organ harvesting. We all have organs, and there are increasing cases of organ harvesting now, where vital organs in the human body are taken away and transplanted, within 72 hours to those who need these organs. Organs like the kidneys, the hearts, the pancreas, and all that in the human body. It's also an aspect of human trafficking. Forced labor, child domestics, they're all aspects of human trafficking. So basically, of course, there are so many interesting stories. Not interesting, so to say, that so many stories that people can learn a lot from it. We have had a case a few years ago where a young girl that was trafficked at 19 to Burkina Faso. She worked for some years and got her freedom and came back to Edo and Delta State and recruited 9 girls, to Burkina Faso. She got there. She opened notebooks for the 9 girls, and they were making entries of their earnings every day until they will also get their freedom. And so it's a vicious circle. I have right now, today is 22nd day of August 2022. I have a lady, 27 years old, in my custody that trafficked a 14-year-old girl sometimes in February this year to Burkina Faso. The girl was just rescued last week, and of course, the trafficker is in the cell because there are some other persons connected with it that also has to be apprehended. It's also that stories on daily basis that one can go on and on. Few months ago, 2 months ago, we had a conviction. A lady who is married to a law enforcement officer, that was apprehended. She also trafficked 14-year-old girl to Mali. She was apprehended. The girl was rescued. She was tried, even though she was given a fine, an option of fine. So the cases are there every day to contend with.
Yes. Sometimes these traffickers, they come up with this excuse that, they're only trying to help out, they're only trying to empower families that are so poor and all of that. And then sometimes the victims themselves, they know what they are going into and they are willing to go through that. So when you come in contact with this set of persons, how do you deal with the situation?
First, anybody that tells you that they want to help you, it's all lies. Because you want to help somebody and you are going to take the victim to the shrine to sweat one oath, where their vital body parts are taken, sometimes the fingernails, the pubic hair, their photographs, their personal wears like pants and all that are taken into the shrine to sweat one oath. You don't help somebody by, even deceiving the person that, look, I want to help you, but don't tell anybody. And are taken away without the knowledge of their parents or guardian. Is that help? Because these things are done in secrecy, so there is no help. And in any case, the law establishing the crime, the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Law Enforcement and Administration Act 2015 recognizes the fact that consent is not an issue. So where even a victim knows that this is what she's going to do there and consent to it, as far as the law is concerned, she's a victim. Particularly where, of course, deceptions, some of these elements, forced, the victim is forced, the victim is abducted, the victim is deceived, are applied. So, but generally, consent is not an issue. It's still treated as a victim. Yeah.
Aside that, what are other challenges that your agency faces? Finance, resources?
Well, like every other government agencies, none can say, oh, the finance is more than enough. But then we'll do our work. You can't say the finances are not there. We are, of course, delivering on our mandate. But outside finance, there are other issues like people not accepting that it's a crime. Human trafficking is a crime. A lot of the traffickers see trafficking as a business. They take it as any other business. So it takes time to educate them that, look, this is a crime. It's a crime against even the individual. It's a violation on the human rights of the individual that is a victim. And then, of course, when you also rescue the victims, we need to go to court. And these victims are to testify against their traffickers. Sometimes the traffickers are relations,
Yes.
and they don't want to give evidence against their relations. But be that as it may, I can say that the agency come a long way. In this command, we have had 80 convictions, starting from 2004, when the first human trafficker was convicted here in Edo State. And the whole of Nigeria, the first one was convicted here in 2004. So between then and now, we've had 80 convictions. And when you know that some of these cases last so long in court, you will give a pat on the back of the agency, because there are some cases like the last conviction we had. The matter was instituted in 2016, and we didn't get judgment in the case until 2 months ago. There are cases that can last 8 years, 10 years, but we still forge ahead to prosecute the traffickers, to serve as a deterrent, to others.
Okay, let's talk about the victims now, the process of reintegrating them and helping them become better. At the outreach, you mentioned something about a shelter and
Yes,
all
yeah, we have a shelter. We have a shelter. It's like a 5-class, a 5-star hotel. Because when some victims come into our shelter, they don't want to go.
Oh, wow.
But because we operate a transit shelter, and when we are through with you, we reunite and follow up. But some of them, when they come in, because of the care and attention that is given to them, they are reluctant to leave. But because others will still come back, to the shelter, at a point in time, we have to reunite you. After we have also considered what next are you going to do? Are you going to go back to school? The agency, of course, is sponsoring some victims in schools, and graciously, the agency has even employed about 5 former victims that are now graduates and are working with NAPTIP. But outside that, majority of the victims wants to go into one of the skills acquisition, the photography, it's bead making, hotel and catering management, secretarial studies, and all that, fashion and design, catering and hotel management. So whenever they have chosen, we don't force them to choose any trade. But once they have chosen, we guide them and see them through it, and then eventually get them empowered. Some of them have come out with successful stories. They have been able to establish their business and are now employers of labor.
Wow.
So, but that does not mean that we have not also had failures. We're planning any moment from now to empower 12 victims, and we're inviting you to also grace the occasion. But we protect our victims. We don't show them directly on television, but of course you can take their back and all that. But we're planning to empower them. We key them, and then as soon as the time is right, we have the equipment, we get them empowered. Yes.
Still on victims, but let's talk about children. Okay, these victims we just talked about, maybe they are older victims, they can easily set up on their own and all of that. Now, children that you rescue, by the time you're done with the rehabilitation and all of that, do you take them back to that environment that made them vulnerable? What do you do about that environment? Because they have parents, they have guidance, they have to be under someone. So how do you have?
There are a lot of ways we can go about it. First, if they are vulnerable, we may have arrested the trafficker that actually recruited them. The trafficker would have also been punished. The parents, you see, the law does not in any way excuse the parents that are involved. We have arrested parents that are also involved. We have had a case where a victim came all the way from Denmark to come and testify against the mother.
Wow.
Here in Benin City. So, It's not a question that is glozed over because you are a parent and then you want to get your child exploited and then you are free to do that. The law will catch up with anybody who is involved. So whether you are the parent, the guardian, or whatever, so called. So being a parent does not, you know, exculpate you from punishment if the need arises. So that is the way it is. So parents must also be very careful because we have also been able to, to find out that because of the pressure of parents, it's also fueling human trafficking. There are a lot of parents that beg their children to go and make money to take care of the rest members of the family. The point is it the responsibility of your child to go make money out there to come and take care of the other children you have given birth to? It's your responsibility to take care of these children so that when you are old, these children will take care of you. But if you're a parent and you have sent your daughter to go and make money out there, it's like you are eating your CDMs.
Yeah.
So when you eat it up, what are you going to, to plant and then generate the tubers to eat? Because many of them come back also traumatized, some come back with diseases. Of course, we have had victims that came back with HIV and all that. So who is the loser? The parents are losing, the community are losing, the entire society is also losing. So it's important for parents, to stop it. I was on television this morning, an interview in one of the television stations there this morning, and I also uh, brought up the issue of a father who tried to disown the daughter because she refused to embark on a journey outside the country. We went for a sensation campaign of course, it's not hidden, School of Health Technology, and we met a young girl who said she had to leave the home because the parents insisted that she must go abroad. But having known what she's going to encounter there, she refused and moved out of the home. So it's a problem that, of course, the entire society, you know, stand to lose if we continue to allow that to happen. And that is why the agency is all out to make sure that those who are involved are punished, victims are rescued, and then, of course, awareness is raised to make sure that people get to know about these things. Because the impression has always been that, oh, when you travel out of the country, I mean, it's all bed of roses. You can pick gold on the street of Europe. And I tell them, I've been there many times. I didn't see any gold to pick on the street of Europe. So it's like that. But of course, it's also important to focus attention on internet trafficking, which is even more serious. Victims are recruited from communities across the country and then brought into cities to be exploited. You know, so out of 100, more than 70% is internet trafficking, which is serious. But because of the visibility that is given to internet trafficking, everybody seems to believe that, oh, when you talk about trafficking, it's abroad and all that. But it's not. Internet trafficking is even more serious.
You just mentioned that during your sensitization campaign that someone came up and said, made mention of her experience, her father disowning her
Yeah.
for not wanting to travel and all of that. Yes, your agency is involved in campaigns and all of that. But are there ways we can provide help to these people before they are trafficked? Like the person that just shared her experience that her father disowned her because she refused to travel. So such
Yes.
persons,
Yeah.
how do we find them? How do we help them before they fall victim?
Well, it's like this particular case I just mentioned, we are trying to profile her properly to see what support we can give to her, and then of course the parents of this girl need to be educated, need to be sensitized, so that they will know that it's not just sending your daughter to make money. We're not thinking about the implication. There are some that leave their homes and they don't come back alive. They're not thinking about that, only thinking of the houses they are going to build for them, or maybe the cars and all that. But what about the implication, a negative implication of, allowing them, to be trafficked? If a 14 years old girl, like the one that was brought back last week from Burkina Faso, she has been exploited over there. She has met with so many men to meet up. So, what is the implication of that on the society? So, those are the things we should be looking at. But for such parents, they need to, to be educated. The knowledge of the issues of human trafficking has to be brought to bear. And that is why we have engaged with communities to raise awareness even before we started this recent collaboration with His Royal Majesty, the Oba of Benin. We need to talk to parents. We need to let them know that trafficking, human trafficking, is a crime, and that they should look at other choices available. There's a girl that the agency used as the face of NAPTIP, not for sale campaign a few years ago. The girl was to be trafficked, but she decided, to look at other choices. And I can tell you that she can pay me salary today.
Wow.
Because there are a lot of persons that are under her, employment. She didn't. Now she travels abroad and also come back. I mean, I was talking to her when we had a war day against human trafficking. She said she was going to travel to Ghana, but yesterday she's back to one business or the other. So there are right choices you can make here, and for her, she's an employer of labor, and this is the same person that will have been taken away. She's building a massive structure as her office.
Wow.
That is the thing. So there are right choices you can make in the country. Don't just hope that when you get outside the country, it's all Eldorado, bed of roses, and all that. There's a lady that the husband made a report here just 2 weeks ago. She said the husband said that he left for Boma here in Edo State, where he had some work to do, and of course he left the family. When he got to Ekpoma, he called the wife that I've gotten to my destination and all that. So 5 days later, he came back to find that the house was empty. As I'm talking to you now, the lady is in Libya with 2 of their kids trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea. And this is the sea where so many persons have been losing their lives. But it's there with 2 kids. Even for an adult, it's risky passing through the Mediterranean because a lot of them die in the process. Help at times come for some of them that are rescued. But what do you do about kids that are just 4 years old or 6 years old and you want to make them to cross the Mediterranean? One of the victims told me that when she got to Mediterranean, when you get to the Mediterranean Sea in Libya, it's like a journey of no return. When you get there, you can't say, oh, I'm no longer interested in this journey again. They will just kill the person and, of course, into the sea. because the sea is very salty. The sight of the sea alone is enough for them to vomit. And they do vomit, but they just give them, some drugs, to take to be able to overcome, crossing the Mediterranean Sea. But in spite of that, a lot of them die in the Mediterranean Sea because they want to cross. And you see some persons, some families celebrating when they hear that they have crossed. Just crossing the Mediterranean Sea to the other side, they go for Thanksgiving. They celebrate and all that. But as they arrive at the other end, because when you get to this other side, also, maybe you are placed in a camp for some time and all that. So it's just not easy. What about the persons that die in the Sahara Desert, the hottest desert in the world? Sometimes they beg for urine to drink because there is no water to drink, no water to drink. I told a story this morning of a case we had where a young girl said she had to watch the younger sister die in the Sahara Desert because the younger sister was exhausted and she had to watch the younger sister die in the Sahara Desert. She said the only thing she could remove from the body was the wristwatch and the necklace the younger sister was wearing. So it's pathetic.
Really sad stories. I think we should do more on this so that we keep bringing awareness to people. Yeah, and you mentioned the palace. The palace is in support of this work. So, what can, aside the palace, what can corporate organizations, individuals, the government, what can they do to really support this work?
Well, everybody, all hands must be on deck, and of course, the agency has adopted the approach of the whole of society and the whole of government. Government agencies, ministries, and departments must key in into the fight against human trafficking. Everybody in the society, individuals, families, communities, traditional institutions must get involved. And that's why we continue to commend His Royal Majesty, the Omonoba, the Oba of Benin Kingdom for his support. His voice alone, has a lot of impact to make in the fight against human trafficking. In 2018, he brought juju priests and native doctors that normally administer oaths of secrecy on victims and placed a curse for anyone that will continue to do that. And it was clear that many of the juju priests relocated. They started taking victims out of those states to neighboring states of Delta and all that. I remember visiting the Obi of Agbo in the Delta state, and I mentioned it to him that if such a thing can be done, and when I also visited the Enoji of Igwebe, he did the same thing, replicated what His Royal Majesty, the Oba of Benin, did in Igwebe, and gathered also juju priests to stop administering oaths. Because when they are under the influence of the oath, it's also a hindrance in our prosecution, because they are enjoined not to say, of course, the secret and all that. But the fact that this oath have been broken by the Royal Majesty, led to the liberation of most of these victims. I traveled to Italy, shortly after that time, and I saw some girls, from Edo State in Italy, and I asked them that His Royal Majesty has, made a pronouncement that what do they feel about it? And they were very joyous in celebration. One of them told me that she has been liberated and that the trafficker immediately was afraid to collect any earnings from her just because of that pronouncement by the Oba. The traffickers were scared, to collect any money from their victims and all that. So it has a lot of positive impact, and of course, till now, juju priests are still scared of, you know, administering oaths of secrecy on victims of trafficking. So the traditional institutions have a lot of role to play. If other traditional leaders and rulers can also, do the same thing, I'm sure that a lot of this battle would have also been won.
Your last words, sir.
Well, I would say that everybody must shine their eyes. That human trafficking is an ill wind that blows nobody any good. So all hands must be on deck to see that we contain the menace of human trafficking, so as to make the society a better place for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
That's it for today. Until next time, I am Imi Salami. Thank you.